Hi, is
Hello.
that better?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, it might have been my connection, and I don't know
Okay.
what happened, but I had
I
to
don't know.
just log off completely and then jump back on.
All right. Well, it works now. It seems
Okay.
like it's a lot easier to figure this thing out on Instagram. You send someone a request, do you want to join me? And then they click yes.
And that it's that easy.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, thank you so much. I think we're already, a little late already. Gosh,
It's all right.
I'm gonna try taking off my AirPods again. I hope I don't get disconnected. Is
Oh,
this
good. They can hear both of us now.
okay? Is this okay?
Yeah. It's
Okay.
good for me.
Yay! Tony, it looks good now. Thank you. That's awesome. So, from what I understand, I think, my audience, well, I see comments from my audience, you see comments from your
Mhm.
audience. I don't think I can see comments from your followers. But
Yeah.
yeah, well, thank you so much for joining. It's so nice to chat with you and meet with
Yeah.
you virtually. Um, yeah, so maybe we can give a quick intro from each of
Mhm.
us and then, jump into some questions. Does that work?
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself? I know you're living
Yeah.
in Thai, and I think that's so exciting. I want to know more about your background.
Right. I moved to Thailand um, about 2 years ago. I moved there in 2019. Actually, almost exactly 2 years ago, because it was like July 10th or something of 2019. So it was very close to 2 years ago. And I started learning Thai, just because, well, I have a YouTube channel about language, about learning other languages. Um, and I've been learning, I've learned Spanish, French, a whole bunch of different languages. So when I moved to Thailand, it was just very natural for me to want to learn Thai. And now I just moved back to America again, and I've only been here for about a month, but I I didn't quite reach the level of Thai that I was hoping to, like I did with my other languages, Spanish and French and stuff, even after living there for almost 2 years. Uh, so so I'm gonna keep going with it. I decided, even though I don't have a ton of opportunities to practice Thai here
Mm-hmm.
in Wisconsin, uh, but that's why I'm here on TikTok, so I can practice with all my followers.
Yeah, and I mean, from what I've seen in your videos, you're pretty good with Thai. I mean, you seem pretty comfortable.
Thank
You
you.
can carry a conversation. I think that's pretty awesome. And so I a little bit about myself. My channel or my account is Cat Talks Thai. I started teaching Thai on TikTok for fun. I had a different account and then I created this account. I was like, okay, let me just try teaching Thai. Let's see who's going to be interested. I wasn't expecting much interest, to be honest. And then after a few videos, I found out that there's a big audience that watches Thai dramas and listens to Thai songs. And, that was really surprising. So I kept going and it's just turned into something fun that I want to do every day now. And I'm getting to meet with creators like you and followers like everyone here, and it's just been so exciting. So I'm glad we are able to connect, and I'm glad. I think I saw you do one of my duets just a few weeks
Yeah.
ago. I had to practice. I thought that was awesome. But I so before we jump into other questions, one thing that I've done on my account is like pop quizzes. Um,
Hmm.
Accidental Thai teacher. I am an accidental Thai teacher.
Yeah.
I've done pop quizzes for my audience. I haven't done those in a while, but since you're pretty fluent in Thai, I'm gonna throw out
Yeah.
some Thai words and see
Fluent
if.
is a relative term, but yeah, yeah. I'll take
um,
it though.
well, I mean, I wouldn't say you're a beginner anymore. I would say, I don't know, intermediate, I think. Um, so I'll throw out a
Somewhere in
few words.
there.
Yeah. So I'll throw out a few words. Maybe we'll give a couple seconds to see if the audience knows the meanings of those words. And maybe if you know, you can help reveal. Does that sound okay?
Okay. Okay.
All
And
right.
maybe
So,
the audience hints if I don't know.
all right. So a few words, just one syllable words. Um, well, not one syllable, but just words. The word ดีใจ, ดีใจ. Do you guys know what that means?
Okay.
That's an easy one.
Yeah.
Let's see.
So
ดีใจ. Let's see if I'm getting any comments. I don't see any come through right now. Does anyone know what ดีใจ means? Synchronized said good. Any other responses? Happy. Good heart. ดีใจ. I've heard it before, but I don't know what it means. Good heart, happy. Do you want to reveal what that means? Crew Aaron?
I think it's happy, right?
It does. It does mean happy. The literal translation is good heart, really. D is good and Dai is heart. But it does mean happy. So yay! Thank you for those who responded. Okay, yay! So I'll throw out another word. Let's do a verb this time. An easy one. เดิน เดิน. Do you guys remember what that means? I've covered this in a video before. Let's see. เดิน. Okay, I'm getting a few responses. Walk, walk, drink. Someone said, I need classes. Well, this is a good starting point. Someone said,
Yeah.
sit, walk.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Crew Aaron, do you want to reveal what that means?
This one's funny because I actually always mix up the word for drink and walk.
I can see that.
Because one is dum and the other one is dun, right?
Yeah.
But this one I believe is walk, the one that you said.
It is walk. Yes. Yes. Yay. So thank you guys for getting this right. I know a lot of you did. All right. Crew Aaron, do you want to throw out a word for the audience?
Let me see. Let me come up with a good one. Okay. First one that I came up with was one of my vocabulary words on Anki today. So it's the word tanakan.
Oh, that's a hard one.
Okay. Well,
let's see if anyone knows. I've never covered that before. Let's see. Tanakan. Does anyone want to take a guess? I'm getting bank. I got 2 responses.
mm-hmm.
Another response, bank.
Okay. Well, I think it means. So hopefully they're all right.
Yes. Yeah, that one is a difficult one. Someone said difficult. It is a little bit trickier. Yeah, I've never covered that before, but I'm glad some people were able to get that. That's awesome. Let's see. Oh, here's an easy one. I think it's easy.คิดถึง. Do you guys know what that is? Do you guys want to respond? See, someone said, I think I got here a little too late for the questions. No, you're not late at all. We're doing like icebreakers, just fun pop quizzes. I said the wordคิดถึง, and I wanted you guys to guess what that means. And I'm getting a lot of misuse. Misuse. Thinking about someone. And that's right. That's right. Should we do maybe 2 more? 2 more. Tony, all the Thai dramas use it. That's why everyone knows this one. Okay.
I learned that word in Mani or Mani Mana.
Mani Mana. Is that a show? It's so familiar.
Oh, it's a children's book.
It's a children's
There's
book.
able to read. Yeah, someone in the audience probably knows what it is.
Right. I mean, I was like, I've heard of that. I just haven't read it in the longest time.
Mm-hmm.
The- Okay. So we'll do two more questions. So here's one. Let's do a color. สีชมพูสีชมพู
See if I have something that is that color in here.
See, does anyone know what that is? I'm getting pinks and blue. สีชมพู do you guys know what that color is? I'm getting pinks and blues. Crew Aaron, do you want to reveal what the color is?
Yeah, that one is pink.
Pink, it is. So most people got that right. Yay! All right, and let's do one more. Let me try to think. Do you have a word that you want to share?
Another word. Let me think here. Let me take a look through this book.
Or I can throw out a number. Maybe we can do
Hmm.
like an easy number, single digit number.
Mm-hmm.
Bad. Bad.
Bad.
Do you guys know what number that is? I'm getting
I know.
I'm getting 8. I also got spicy. I can see how that could sound like spicy.
Ah, yeah, kinda. Yep.
Kinda. 8.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think most people got it right. It's 8.
Good.
Yay! Well, thank you guys for participating. That was a fun little
Dima.
icebreaker. ดีมากค่ะดีมาก
Yeah.
More. I had someone say more, please.
We can do one more.
Yeah, we can do one more. Um, let's see. Is there an intermediate one that you want to throw out there?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at now. I'm just looking through this Thai book to see if one pops out at me. Ah, how about I don't know if this one is intermediate or not, but I'll say ต้นไม้
Oh, ต้นไม้ I haven't covered this one either. Let's see if anyone knows. ต้นไม้ Swadika, for those just joining, we are just doing a few icebreakers and pop quizzes right now. Tree, a lot of people are getting this. Tree.
Very good.
Yay! That's great. Good job, everyone. All right. Well, maybe we can jump into a few questions.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
and if you want, if we have time, we can always come back to more pop quizzes later. So,
Mhm.
yeah, but I mean,
Yeah,
I was
fun.
curious since you've been learning Thai for the past 2 years. I have a lot of people just learning Thai, and one question that comes up a lot is, what's the best place to start? What's the best way to start? What would you
Yeah.
recommend?
Um, that's a good question because when I first started learning Thai, well, I had a lot of experience learning other languages, and I used Duolingo, and there's a lot of resources for learning Spanish. But when it came to learning Thai, I didn't know where to
There aren't
start.
any, right?
It was very limited. So I found the number one thing that I did that I really liked was Pimsleur. Have you ever heard of that?
I haven't. How do you spell that?
It's Pimsleur,
Okay.
I believe.
Okay.
Pimsleur. They have a bunch of different languages, and Thai happens to be one of them. I really enjoyed that. It's an audio course, so you can get it on CD or you can get MP3s. And it's nice because they start you off from the very beginning. A lot of the resources that I found, it was kind of like they were teaching me things that were a little bit more advanced,
Okay.
and I just wasn't really able to follow. So that was really good. I did Mango Languages for a while, which I thought was okay.
Okay.
There's another one called Ling, Ling, and
Yeah.
their mascot is a monkey, actually. So I'm not
Yeah.
sure if they took that
App
back or not.
before. Mm-hmm.
Um, and so that one was all right. The one thing that I didn't find that the one thing that I really wish I would have had when I first started learning Thai is a YouTube channel now that I've found called Comprehensible Thai. And
Okay.
man, I recommend this to everyone who's learning Thai because it's by far my favorite resource for learning Thai. And it's basically just Thai teachers who just do nothing but speak Thai. So it seems really daunting for an absolute beginner, but they have some videos that are just so easy, right? Like there's one teacher who he literally just says ni ku arai. I think that's what he says. He's like, "What is this?" Right? And it's a dog. And then the next picture, he says the exact same thing, ni ku arai, and it's a cat. And he just goes, it's not as daunting as it seemed when you say that it's all entirely in Thai, right? Because I tried watching some Netflix series in Thai and I couldn't understand anything. But this YouTube channel I found, and I was a little bit more intermediate at that point. But man, if I had found it right from the very beginning, that would have saved me a lot of pain, I think.
And you said that was called Comprehensible Thai. Is that right? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I don't
it's
think
based
I've
off
heard
the
of that.
theory of comprehensible input.
Okay. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
I am writing that down too. I don't think I've heard of that before. I think the resources that I like to refer to are
Hmm.
ThaiPod101.com.
Yeah, I use that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's great for you know foundation. I know they go through like the consonants and the vowels, and I think it's a great resource. But I think
Yeah,
comprehensible Thai is something different, and it'll help with listening as well, which is great.
absolutely. Yeah. The one thing that I really liked about Tide 101 is their what do they call it? The extensive reading PDFs that they put out. And,
Hmm.
it was a lot of pictures. It made it easy to read what was going on because like even if I didn't understand anything, I
Hmm.
could see the picture. Right, so the pictures made
Right.
it helpful. Actually, I don't know if I'm allowed to advertise my own thing too, but I came up with this. I wrote this book for my English students.
Hmm.
It's called The Little Dragon, and it's just super easy. Like kind of the same concept. They I use lots of pictures and stuff, and it's very easy to read through. And then so I liked it so much that I got someone to translate it into Thai. So I made a Thai version of it too.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So and
And
then it just has little dictionaries in there for some of the more difficult words.
okay.
But
And where can we find that?
so that's on. If you're interested in that, it's on Amazon. You can just search for Fingtam Languages or um, Jiao Jiao Mangon, right? Right. I think I pronounced that right. I didn't write this book, so it was translated by an expert translator.
That's awesome. And how did you start learning to read Thai? I mean, I think that's a little daunting for some people, like 44
Yeah,
consonants and 32
and the letters are all
letters.
like backwards and sideways and underneath each other. um, okay, that was really painful. Actually, was learning
Oh
to read and
no.
write. I did. So I started. Um, I started with a book called "Learn to Read Thai in 10 Days"
Hmm.
because that sounded very promising.
Hmm.
Of course, I did not actually learn to read Thai in 10 days. Um, for the first 4 days, I followed along with the program, and then I kind of fell off. Uh, and then I probably about 5 times I kept coming back to this book and saying, "All right, this time I'm really gonna make it to day 10," and I never actually did. It was just a little bit too difficult for that. But I found that it did make it. That book, I would give that book like a 7 out of 10. Like it helped me learn the letters. I didn't learn the names of the letters. Like if it's a gawk guy, or I didn't learn all the names of the letters, but I learned the sounds of the letters, and that's all I really care about. So that was helpful to me. Moderate, I would say moderately helpful. And then the other thing that I did a lot of was the Pimsleur reading guide. So I mentioned earlier that Pimsleur it really is all audio, because it's a CD. But then at the very end, they also have a PDF that like goes through a few reading lessons. And I went through those lessons a bunch of times, and that helps me. And then after that, all I did was I would sit down with a tutor. And when I lived in Thailand, it was it was easy for me to find tutors who would do it was like 200 baht an hour, so
Which is
very reasonable.
like what, $8? No,
Like $6.
$6.
Yeah, yeah. $6 an hour. Because I worked at a school, and I just went to some of the Thai teachers and, okay, how much would you charge me for a Thai lesson? That was the price. And there's italki, so I did that on italki a lot, as I found tutors that were just able to do it with me online, and go through the Thai Pod 101 reading. And I also went through my own, like I wrote the book, so I was familiar with the story.
Right.
And then I got a Thai tutor to help me go through the book. Because, like I already know the story, which was actually very helpful, because it just helped with my comprehension. And then we just went through, and it helped me practice reading the vowels and the consonants, and getting which consonant, like which vowel goes on opposite sides of the consonants, and which vowels go under and which vowels go back. So that was pretty helpful, just reading with a tutor through simple texts.
Right. Do you, so having a tutor, I think that's helpful, just having that one-on-one practice and guidance.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And being immersed in the culture and in the language as well. So you had to use it every day, really.
Yeah.
Do you think you would have been able to learn it in, like, if you were in the US and not in Thailand? Do you think it would have been as easy? Challenging?
There's actually some debate about that. So on the one hand, moving to Thailand, I just was able to meet more Thai speakers, right? Like I made friends with Thai people. But then I also had all these other things that I had to work for, like moving to a country, like finding a job, and getting an apartment, and stuff like that. As when you're in your home country and then you just pick up a hobby like learning a language, sometimes that's a little bit more stress-free than move to a country and you just have to. Oops, sorry, I bumped my camera there. I worked at an English school that meant to teach English to Thai people. So most of my coworkers spoke English as their native language, and they made no effort at all to learn Thai, just because they didn't have to, because they had Google Translate on their phone. And, most of the Thai people around us were able to understand a little bit of English. So it was like absolutely not a requirement for them to learn Thai, and they just didn't.
Right.
Unfortunately. So I think it was helpful to move to Thailand, but absolutely not necessary by any means.
Okay. And I mean, the only reason I ask that is because I do have a lot of followers that are I know a few people in the U.S. learning Thai. A few people in different countries trying to learn Thai. So I think this information is helpful for sure.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
it should be encouraged. You know?
right. What someone said, I think it's very hard to learn Thai. And I mean, I think any new language can be a little challenging. I think so. I learned Thai as a first language, so I think my experience would be a little bit different. But as I'm trying to teach, and I'm trying to teach my own family on the side as well, I think what has been hard is probably the tones. Do you find the tones hard? Because I mean, tones can just completely change the
Yeah.
meanings of words.
Um, yeah. It was difficult to learn at first. Pimsleur actually helped a lot. I've referenced them a few times,
Okay.
but because the way Pimsleur works is you hear a native speaker say a sentence, a phrase, and you have to repeat it, and you try to repeat as closely as possible. And just after the lessons are half an hour long, and you get probably 200 practice sentences in a lesson, and that there's 30 lessons, and so after the end of the course you just have thousands of repetitions of hearing it and then trying to repeat it out loud. So that was helpful. Honestly, more so than the tones, I found one of the difficult parts of learning Thai was distinguishing between short and long vowels, because to me in English it would be the same vowel whether you said a or a.
Mm-hmm.
That like that's just the same thing as the tones, right? To an English
Right.
speaker, those two vowels sound exactly the same,
Right.
but to a Thai speaker, not necessarily.
Yeah, I just posted a video on vowels a few days ago, and I think some of the comments did say that they can't tell the difference. I had like ah, no, and and
Yeah,
they
exactly.
all these four sound the same. So I was like, oh yeah, I guess I'm so used to it that I don't realize that it is a little more challenging.
Yeah, I mean, once you start paying attention to it, it actually is easy to hear the difference. But many English speakers, we would to us, it's the same word whether you said B or B, right? It's just two different ways of saying the same word. But when you pay attention to it, it's not that difficult. You just have to start to kind of listen for how short the vowels are.
Right. Yeah, I think it takes some getting used to. Takes listening practice. Someone said ah. Yes, that one is tricky too. I'm
Yeah.
trying to read through the comments as well. The tone is crucial for sure. And I'm scrolling back. Someone said, "Is it difficult to move to Thailand, such as moving alone and financial things?" Do you want
Yeah.
to share a little bit
Um,
about
so for me, it was, well, I've traveled a lot. I've lived in many countries, and so it was terribly difficult for me. Um, I also got a lot of help from the company that I was working for because, you know, they have a lot of Americans come, so they're just used to helping. But no, I didn't find it terribly difficult to move to Thailand, other than some of the cultural differences.
that?
You know, make sure you take your shoes off when you go into a house, or
Right.
little things like that.
Hmm.
And then the language barrier sometimes could be a difficulty. But like I said, most of my friends never learned Thai, and some of them lived in Thailand for 6, 7, 8 years, never learned a word of Thai, other than just how to tell a taxi driver where to go sometimes,
Oh
and they
wow.
survived just fine.
Oh wow. And were you living in Bangkok or were you living in the another province?
Uh, so I lived in Nantaburi, just north of Bangkok.
Okay. Okay. That's like on the outskirts, really, right?
Yeah,
No,
I
Antabi.
mean, it's still like the same metropolitan area,
Mm-hmm.
but it was just a very short motorbike ride if I wanted to go downtown Bangkok,
Mm-hmm.
maybe 20-minute ride.
Right. Um, okay. I'm just trying to go back and look at some of the comments. One commenter asked, "What is the most challenging aspect in learning Thai?" I know you mentioned vowels, the short vowels. Is there anything else you
Yeah.
feel is challenging?
Say I wouldn't say necessarily vowels are the hardest part. I wouldn't even say tones are the hardest part, really, because especially with Pimsleur, that really helped me get over the tones and the vowels relatively quickly. I think a big part of it for me is just kind of learning how words work differently, because, like, uh, here I I would say I have 10 books, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing in English that says I have to say I have 10, like, I don't know what you would say, like 10 units of book
Right.
or something like
It's the
that.
classes, right, that are a little confusing.
But that is sort of an example of just there's large differences. Also, trying to figure out how to tell the time, or like how to use tenses in Thai, right? Like,
Yeah.
because I want to say I had already gone to the store before I had already gone to the store before we went home, and I'm trying to like figure out how to include all of those senses in Thai, and they're like, no, it's just go store, go home, and I'm like, yeah, but that's not. Is that the same thing as had already gone to the store? Like, I don't know.
So,
So trying to figure out. I guess one of the big things was trying to fit all of the parameters of the English language into Thai
mhm,
when it doesn't work that way.
it does work very differently. Um, and I know, I've referenced other creators and other teachers, and, you know, the basic Thai is like the SVO structure, right? Subject, verb, object. But of course, once you get into it, there's definitely more to it than that. Um,
Yeah.
but going back to your sentence, I went to the store. Can you repeat what you said? I'd love to hear your version in Thai as well.
Okay. So yeah. So I think so. What I had said is I had already gone to the store, and I guess if I was going to translate that into Thai, of course I'm by no means an expert, but I would say like uh, "ไปร้านแล้ว" or something like that. ผมไปร้านแล้ว
Mm-hmm. Lao is already. I already went to the
Yeah.
store. Or you can say เพิ่งไปร้าน I just went. Right.
Mm,
Yeah.
okay. So that kind of makes it seem like an action that had happened more recently. If
Right.
you say "pung,"
Mm-hmm.
okay, that's not a word that I'm really familiar with.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just curious how you would say that. So, all right, I'm gonna look at a few more
But
questions.
so one question for you then:
Yeah,
Is there? Well, you really wouldn't then make a distinction between I went to the store or I had gone to the store? I mean, would you translate those two sentences the same? If
let's see. I would say ไปร้านแล้ว I went to the store. I had gone. I would say the same thing in Thai. Yeah, ไปร้านแล้ว or เพิ่งไปร้านมา or I just went. Yeah, I would say those two things.
okay,
Yeah,
interesting. Yeah, yeah. So right, sometimes I'm pulling my hair trying to figure out how to make slight distinctions
right,
that we make in English when you don't have to.
right,
That's one of the great things about Thai. There's no verb conjugations. There's no, I don't have to worry about plurals or singular.
right.
There's no grammatical gender like there is in French or Spanish. All the words are just very simple by themselves, and I don't even have to use a tense if I don't want to.
Right, exactly. Do you get confused by the casual way of speaking? I get that question a lot, right? The word arai is spelled with araruya, which is an R sound, but people say
Mm-hmm.
like the R tends to get pronounced L's, or like the clusters, people drop the L's and R's sometimes. Like, did that confuse you?
That has never confused me, because it's just so common. Like hello, right? Like if you want to ask, I don't know. It's just very common to hear that. So
Mm-hmm.
that has never confused me. one of the formality things that I think has been not difficult for me, but maybe makes my Thai a little bit strange is I think I maybe overused the word pom, right? Because in English, every single sentence needs to have a subject,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you always use the word I if you're going to talk about an action that you do, right? But I know in Thai, it's a lot more common to either just omit the pronoun if it's not necessary, or just use your first name,
Mm-hmm.
or like say P, right? Or Nong, right? Or there's lots of ways of getting around using the pronoun that just
Right.
don't exist in English.
Right, exactly. Or yeah, you're right. Sometimes we just drop the pronouns altogether. หิวข้าว I'm hungry,
Yeah, exactly.
but you don't have to say I. Um,
Mm.
and we do use names a lot. So it seems like we're always talking in third person. Cat จะไปที่นั่น cat จะไปที่
Mm.
นี่ cat จะกินข้าว
Yeah,
and I think that's for some people they're not used to that. So it
yeah.
takes some getting used to.
And it seems like there's so many different types of pronouns because, I was taught that men say pom and
Mm-hmm.
women say chan,
Mm-hmm.
right? But then I started watching Netflix in Thai and I see girls saying like nu, right? Or p, right?
Yeah.
Instead of I, I was taught sometimes you refer to older people as p, but then I see them using it to refer to themselves,
Yeah.
you know?
Exactly. I think pronouns are confusing. I've gotten questions around เขา and ตัวเอง
Mm,
people
yeah,
say เขา for themselves and ตัวเอง for someone else, but the true meaning of those words is เขา is them, and then ตัวเอง
mm-hmm.
is myself. But then you flip it when you when you're using it with someone else. So I think pronouns can be a little interesting and challenging. And I think the words that my audience, at least, hear in dramas a lot is "gu" and "mung." I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, be careful when you use that though, because it can be rude if you're not close to someone. So just use it sparingly with your friends only. Yeah.
I just want to say just one thing though to people who maybe a little bit of encouragement to people who are learning Thai. Like, yeah, it is really difficult to navigate all of the pronouns, and you have all of these different formalities and stuff, and like, it just doesn't seem to make sense to an English speaker all the time. But it's like that doesn't matter really. I'm learning Thai, and I get by just saying "pom" all the time, whether or not I guess I don't know. Maybe that'll make me sound more formal sometimes, or maybe it'll just sound a little bit strange or not like necessarily like a native speaker. But I'm not a native speaker, you
Right.
know,
Yeah.
and I can get my point across most of the time.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's the best way to learn. I think you just have to go for it and practice, and it's okay to make mistakes. I've had some commenters say that they're a little shy, and I understand how it's a little daunting. Learning something new. You don't want to make mistakes, but please go for it. Just give it a try, and that's the best way to learn, really.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I have so many stories of friends that I feel like I maybe fall somewhere in the middle of this spectrum of
Hmm.
some friends who are just so bold and so daring, and they just do not care about making mistakes. And then I have other friends who just won't try, and it's like I, I'm just really jealous of these people who have no inhibitions about making mistakes because they learn so quickly.
Right.
And then I watched my friend who just moved to Thailand walk up to the security guard at my apartment, and he's just chatting away with them. They're laughing, they're cracking jokes and stuff. And I'm like, how does he speak Thai better than me already? But that's just his personality.
Right.
And then I land somewhere probably in the middle. And then there's other people who I watch, they never learn, and you can live in Thailand for 20 years and not learn Thai. Um, which, you know, I don't say this as a judgmental thing, but it's just, if you want to learn Thai, if you want to learn how to speak Thai, eventually you just have to speak
Right.
with someone.
Right.
Or speak by yourself. I don't know. I speak to TikTok most of the time.
Yeah, or practice in duets. That's always an option.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really appreciate that encouragement because, you know, um, I do hear that comment a lot. Some people are afraid to try or they don't know who to try it with. So knowing that, I would say, TikTok for the most part is a pretty safe outlet to try things. Sure, it's social media and it's public and it's a little scary, but for the
Yeah.
most part, I think I found TikTok to be pretty supportive when you want to learn new.
Absolutely. That's the only reason I started my TikTok. It's funny. I started on TikTok. I started calling myself Kru Eron because I'm an English teacher.
Right.
But one, my first thought was maybe I would teach English to people. But actually, TikTok was a really crazy journey for me because I never expected to get many views on my videos. I honestly just wanted to post videos of myself speaking Thai so that I could get corrections, and then I don't know, somehow the TikTok algorithm started suggesting my videos to everyone in Thailand, apparently. But I was doing this challenge called the 30-day record yourself challenge. So
Okay.
that's hashtag 30DRYC, 30-day record yourself challenge. And it's just 30 questions, and then you do one video a day and record yourself, speaking whatever language you're learning. So for me, that was Thai, and I just started posting my videos every day. And I got quite a few corrections and encouragements. Most of the comments were either su su or geng mak, right?
Yeah.
And those were encouraging, but not super helpful. And then sometimes I would get people comments like, actually, you used the word ben when you should have said ku, right? And those are the kind of comments I was really looking for. But I thought that was an easy way to practice speaking because it's actually a lot more intimidating for me to speak to a human being than it is for me to speak to a camera.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like an easy way for me to kind of come out of my silence box, right? And just start speaking. It's so easy to learn a language by yourself in your bedroom and never open your mouth.
Right.
But you're never going to actually learn how to speak that way.
Right.
So
That's a great point. And I, I was going to say I really like that because I think I'm one of those people, not necessarily with learning a language, but when I study, I tend to like just sit in my room and I study. And then, I find that later on, if I get to practice or just use it with a friend or someone, I feel like I remember it a lot more. So, yes, practicing definitely is helpful.
yeah, absolutely.
Um,
And if someone who's chill, I made a really good friend in Thailand who would just speak Thai to me all the time. And man, that was so nice because I knew I just had someone that I could just chat with and just make as many mistakes as I wanted.
mhm.
And like on occasion, she would laugh at me if I made like a really bad mistake, but it's not like a malicious laugh. It's just like, we're having fun. We're friends. And that's golden if you can find someone to help you practice Thai like that.
Right. Now, I know that you're continuing to learn Thai. Do you have plans to go back to Thailand?
I don't have any plans right now. Uh, you know, I would love to go back sometime in the future, but uh, I don't know if I'll ever move back.
Right. And you said you were there in 2019, 2 years. Did you stay the entire 2 years straight, or did you come back and go back? And
No, yeah, it was kind of back and forth. I went in 2019, like I said, almost exactly 2 years ago to and then in March of 2020, when COVID, kind of right at the point where we started to realize that COVID is not actually a joke, but it's actually a real thing. And
Mm-hmm.
then all of a sudden, like a week later, we're all like, oh, apparently it's not only is it not a joke, but it's actually like really something that's really serious. So my wife and I really quickly came back to the States. And then we lived here for about 7 months, went back to Thailand for another, I don't know, 6 months, like one more semester. So all total, it was like over a year, but not quite 2 years that I was there.
Okay. Now, is your wife able to speak Thai as well? Like, are you guys practicing?
Um, yeah, she. I was calling her out earlier, but yeah, she's one of the ones that she moved to Thailand before me. Actually, that's where we met. So she had lived there for 4 years. She
Okay.
she can communicate. She can like tell a taxi driver to turn left or turn right, but
Right.
she wasn't.
She can get by, you know. She knows enough.
Yeah. Hmm.
That's so much fun. Um, it's funny because I have a lot of people asking me about Thailand. You know, the question that you had gotten earlier, is it easy to move to Thailand? I've gotten that a few times, but I'll be honest, I haven't been back to Thailand since 2010. Uh,
Mm.
so it's been 11 years. I've been here, and usually, so my parents are there, but usually they come to the US to visit me. So I haven't gone back since. But hopefully, after the whenever this pandemic stuff is all good, then I'll try to go back again. Um,
Yeah.
let's see. I'm trying to scroll back and see. I know there were some questions that came through. Give me 1 second. Or maybe not. There's been conversations in here.
Yeah. Just a question though, for the people who are wondering if it's easy to move to Thailand, I thought it was pretty. Like sometimes, I mean, I got hired to work there, so I already had a job and my visa paperwork a little bit. Um, there was nothing complicated at all about me moving there.
Okay, that's good to know. Um,
Yeah.
but moving there, I guess temporarily isn't too complicated. And I'm just, asking hypothetically, if someone wanted to move there permanently, do you know if that is difficult?
Um, it's not because I could have stayed in Thailand as long as I wanted to. Like we just chose to come back, you know. But I think you have to have a job,
Okay.
or be married to a Thai national or something like that.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, so I moved as a teacher. You know, I think that's a fairly common reason for people to move to Thailand if you're going to teach English,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're a native speaker of English. And then, yeah, I lived there for 2 years, and I could have just kept living there as long as I wanted to. You know, there's people who've been for 20 years teaching, and that was it. Yeah.
That's great to know. Um, and then I had another question come through. Is speaking language much different from book language? I think we covered
Hmm.
a little bit about that, but would love to hear your
Yeah.
experience.
Well, the there's a huge difference in the sense that if you're just learning the spoken language, you don't need to learn the alphabet, which is a whole separate thing all on its own. And the Thai language doesn't have spaces, which made it so much more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as like formality and stuff, yeah, I'd say it's quite different, right? Like you just use, but we do the same thing in English, right? Like
Right.
um, if you're gonna, we almost never talk without using contractions,
Right.
right? If we would never say I am or I cannot, right? We say I'm or I can't, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in English, it's quite common to write words without using the contractions, and it's the same thing in Thai.
Right. Um, yeah, and I think the spoken Thai tends to be a lot more casual. I think there are uh, words that get said really quickly that don't sound like the actual word. I know
Yeah.
people have written "kapun as "kapunka," like
Mm-hmm.
KAPUNKA. I'm like,
Right.
I can see how that can get mistaken for "kapunka" because when you say it really quickly, that's what it sounds like, but it's actually "kapunka." Um,
Right.
so I think that happens a lot in spoken Thai. Things just get said really quickly. And sometimes it's just a little harder to pick up.
Yeah, and it's like we don't language. When you use a language, you don't use it like a robot or like a textbook. You use it like a person who's just chilling and interacting with another human being.
Right.
I remember watching some Thai shows on Netflix, and uh, I was kind of amazed at how much communication takes place with just sounds, right? Like, I don't know if I'm going to come up with a good example, but like someone asks a yes or no question, and then the response to the question is just or
Mm.
something like that. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know if I did that right or if there's like rules that govern how to use those sounds, but
Mhm.
a lot of communication just takes place with noises sometimes.
Yeah. It's like, oi. Oi is like ouch. Or,
Yeah, right.
or E. E is like yuck. You know,
Mm.
I,
Yeah, and they don't necessarily translate into English, right? Because we do the same thing. We use noises for ew or ow or wow or something like that, but
mhm.
they just don't translate all the time.
Right. And that's definitely like a casual spoken language thing. Like that's not formal at all. Um, um, let's see. I'm trying to go. I don't know if I have any more questions from the audience. I think
Hmm.
there's been conversations between people in the audience, which is great.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm gonna see if I have any in here, but of course I have to be able to questions in Thai.
And you're on
Oh,
more Thai people, right?
yes.
Ah,
Yeah. I don't really know how I got started out.
you're on Thai TikTok.
Yeah, I swear I just made my TikTok account so that I could practice speaking Thai with the 30-day challenge, and then people liked watching them, I guess. Here, someone says, "P put Thai dai mai."
Yeah, why don't you show us? You want to introduce yourself in Thai or share
um,
a little bit about yourself
okay,
in Thai?
I'm gonna speak a little bit of broken Thai, so that's my disclaimer. So I don't know. Okay, yeah. ผมชื่อเอรอนผมอยู่ที่อเมริกาเอ่อเรียนภาษาไทยเพราะว่าปีที่แล้วผมอยู่ที่ประเทศไทยอ่าแต่ผมคิดว่าภาษาไทยยาก no no ยากยากภาษา
Yeah.
ไทยยากนิดหน่อย แต่ผมรักเรียนภาษาไทย
That was great. I mean, I think you got
Like,
like the sentence structure. I think everything was great. You said things correctly. And you said yeah correctly too. So,
yeah. I always mess up hard and want.
right. Yeah. Yeah is want. Yeah is hard.
Mm. Oh, there, I just did it.
Uh,
Mm.
that's
Yeah, like we do the same thing in English too.
how to sound like a local Thai. You have to master your
Yeah.
ums and your uhs and mm. Do you point with your mouth too? I know.
Oh,
Thais point with their
and
mouths. They're like over there. Yeah.
I did. It is kind of hard to break the habit of ying.
hmm
Come
Why?
back to America. Hmm. After a while, it just becomes second nature because you do it all the time.
And it's funny because so I live in Texas. I don't have many Thai friends, unfortunately. I have like three other Thai friends that I see maybe like once every or once every 2 months, and they're all very similar in age. So I don't why very much anymore. And in the beginning, when I started my TikToks and I was teaching, oh, here's how you introduce yourself. In my video, I actually reached out and like did a handshake. I was like, wait a minute.
Hmm.
No, Thais don't do handshakes really. Thais, why?
Yeah,
There's not much touching in the Thai culture. That's
right.
not much physical display of affection, no, not much touching. So I forget that myself, having been, away from Thailand for such a long time.
Mm. Yeah,
What are some?
and
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say you brought up just some of the uh, cultural differences of learning a language. Like,
Right.
yeah, it is kind of strange to shake hands. Even by extension, some of the ways you use emojis are different too. Like in Thailand, this emoji is a lot more common because
Yes.
to me, this emoji looks like you're praying for something, right? Like,
Right.
oh God, please. If I see this emoji, that makes me think someone is saying, oh God, please let something happen.
Right.
But in Thailand, it's like thank
Like,
you, or hello, or I don't know. I suppose it could mean a lot of things. Anything that a Y can mean,
right.
please.
And yeah, and I think that does bring up, other questions around like what are some do's and don'ts in Thailand from a
Mm,
cultural standpoint that you've had to adapt to when you live there.
yeah. Um, I think one of the big faux pas in Thailand is feet.
Hmm.
Anything with feet or shoes, like I don't know, stepping over a person. Like go to a party or just go to a friend's house and everyone's hanging out chilling. Like we used to go to my one friend's house. We would sit on the floor and play board games and stuff. And like stepping over someone, I had to be very careful if I was hanging out with mostly Farangs or mostly Thai people, because to me it's not a big deal if someone's gonna get up and go to the bathroom while we're watching a movie. They just step over you, if you're
Hmm.
sitting on the floor. Um, Showing your feet to people, or accidentally stepping on a coin. Stepping on you don't want to step on the king. You
Yeah,
know,
right.
so
Yeah, I think, feet are a big no-no for most things. It's like the dirtiest part of your body. So you're right. No stepping over, no pointing with your feet.
right.
And like holding doors open with your feet. That sort of thing.
Mm.
Oh, that's a little rude,
For
right?
me, it's common. Like, I mean, I never realized how much I use my feet until I went to Thailand. Like, I would pick things up with, if I'm barefoot, sometimes I don't want to bend over, so I pick something up with my foot, And, I don't know, it's not something you do.
Yeah. Like, I'm to this day, I'm still not used to like holding doors open with my feet. It's just
Uh,
something I grew up with and didn't even notice it until, one of my friends mentioned, oh, you can hold
yeah,
the door open with your foot. I'm like, oh, well, yeah, that's just awkward for me. Um,
right. Like I said,
sorry, go ahead.
oh yeah. So I was a teacher. I taught sixth and seventh grade English, and the students in Thailand are required to remove their shoes before they enter the classroom. And that's kind of strange to me. Like we always just wore our shoes into the classroom, but whatever, it's fine. It's a cultural difference. And then one day, my student actually spilt his water bottle on the floor, and it was just wet all under his desk and under the table that they were sitting at. And I was like, "Fine, just go wear your shoes. I don't care." Like, but the students were like, "No, we can't wear our shoes in the classroom. That's so disrespectful." Or even if it was the case of a student who just like would have to come to class after school to turn in their assignment,
Hmm.
you know, they would like walk up to the door, open the door, take off their shoes, walk, take 5 steps into the classroom, hand me their paper, walk back to the door, put their shoes back on, and leave. And I'm like, it just seems unnecessary to me. But
Right.
it's a cultural difference.
It is a cultural difference. Are there any other cultural differences that you had to adjust to?
Hmm. Um,
I have one question, one person asking, is it rude to point with your thumb? I guess like,
mm,
I'm not sure how you would point, maybe like that. I'm not sure.
is that? I don't know. I don't. Maybe
Yeah,
you would know better than me.
right.
I'm not familiar
It's
with
a little
it.
uncommon to point with your, point your finger because that can come across
Yeah.
scolding. So I think Thais don't really do that either. I don't know about pointing with your thumb though. I don't think that's common either. Not necessarily rude, but I just don't think that's common in Thai culture.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
let's see. Let me scroll back. Touching of the head of another person, that's also off limits as well. Touching someone's head because someone's head is like the most sacred part of their body. So you don't want to like you're not supposed to even like ruffle a kid's hair, their hair or anything like
Mm,
that.
hmm.
um,
Oh, one of the things that was a little bit difficult to get used to was, okay, like for example, one night. I shouldn't say this was difficult to get used to. It's an interesting cultural difference, but so we had a overnight camp for our middle school and high school students. Like a end of the year field trip type thing, and we just went overnight to this camp, and there's a lot of fun games and stuff, and then uh, some of our students didn't want to stay in a certain room because of the ghosts in that room, and I was like, okay, but you're
right.
12 years old and like you're still afraid of ghosts.
Oh yeah.
um, but apparently that's a common thing.
Yeah, and I've considered covering this in like my TikToks before, and I just haven't done it. I didn't want to go down the route, talk
Yeah.
about ghosts and
I
spirits.
mean,
There's a lot to talk about, really, because in Thai
right,
culture, we think there are spirits everywhere, in trees,
right,
in houses, and, just everywhere. Not necessarily malicious or anything, but they're guardians of different locations. And
yeah,
so I can see how kids would be a little scared of like staying in one room because there's a ghost there.
right.
Adults would believe.
So when I watch Netflix, it seems like there's tons of movies on Netflix about ghosts.
Absolutely.
Like it's just a very common cultural thing. It seems like.
It's yeah, like if we go to a new place, like if we go to a hotel. So when I was living in Thailand, whenever I go to a new hotel, I would sort of pray to the spirits or the guardians of that location to just, let me have a peaceful stay, no interruptions, just I'm not here to disrespect anything. Um,
Right.
and that was a habit. I don't really do that as much anymore. I've sort of forgotten about that now that I've moved away, but that's just very common to do.
Right.
Um, I'm reading through comments. Ghosts in hotels. Well, that's a classic. It is. Adults also. Thai loves ghost movies. Yes, we do love our ghost movies. Thai ghost movies are scary. Yes, I know PMAC. There's PMAC on Netflix, and
Yeah, I
I think
like
the
that
latest
one.
one is funny, right? That's been done so many times. Um,
It's at least the one I watched, very silly, but it was like scary, like almost like a Three Stooges like comedy.
right. That's the type of comedy that's popular in
Mhm.
Thailand. But yeah,
Yes, I found out.
it's like the slapstick kind of humor.
Yeah,
Um,
very up sometimes.
yeah. PMOC has just been done so many times, just so well known. It's been done like from the very scary to like very comedic, and it's been
Mm.
done a lot. Um, let's see. So I know I had scheduled this for an hour and we're a little bit over time. Should we cover maybe
Oh,
one more question, one more topic? Yeah.
doesn't matter to me.
Let's see. Does anyone else have any other questions? Let me ask the audience. And we've covered cultural differences, language, ghosts.
Mm.
Someone mentioned floating head with the intestines, ghosts, grasu.
Oh, yeah.
Did you hear about that?
Ghosts, ghosts in Thailand are terrifying. Like
Yeah, they're
they're
terrifying. They have like
Casper.
super tall, like braid kind of ghosts. Yeah, maybe I'll cover that in one of my TikToks eventually. Just didn't want to go down that route just yet. Let's see. Are there any other
Yeah.
questions? All right. What's one thing you miss about Thailand?
Mm. 7-Eleven. No, man, I tell you what though, it was very convenient. um, I had a friend who lived about 1 mile away, and between his house and my house, I had to cross about 8 7-Eleven. That's not an I think I had to pass 6 7-Elevens on the way to his house. Um, yeah, no, I do miss the food a lot. Um,
That was a
and there's some really
clear. What Thai food do you miss?
mm, my favorite. I think my favorite Thai food was suki. I used to get that all the time. There's actually I'm not even sure if that's Thai food or originally, but
Yeah,
I used to get.
yeah. So originally, I believe it's Japanese, but it's fusion, and it's become so common in Thailand. And
Yeah.
it's so good. I live in Texas, and I can't really find good suki here. I'm
Mm,
sure you've had
that's a shame.
in Thailand. MK is like MK suki. Oh my gosh, hot pot. It's so
Yeah, I
miss it.
there. My apartment was right over this lady named P. Pong, and I think that was her name. I don't know necessarily know the tones of that. Um, it was like a P. Pong, and she just she had like a restaurant house. And I would just and everything was like 50 baht. So I would just go down there and have lunch every day for like $1.50, and I would get she made like fried rice and pad thai, and I got suki like at least once a week. Um, but yeah, that was great. I miss the Thai food a lot. It's
Yes,
so cheap.
so cheap. I miss the prices. Um, and I left a long time ago when like a plate of rice was 25 baht. I don't know if you can get that for that price anymore, but 25 baht is less than $1. That's
Mm.
like expensive. The cheaper one is like 20 baht. 25 is like the upsell. They add additional stuff in
All
there.
right.
um but that was like 10 years ago. So
Mm.
let's see. Someone is saying 7-Eleven in Thailand is a complete shop. They sell a lot of things, especially food. Um, and I agree.
Yeah.
It's like you go there for quick breakfast, quick lunch, necessities, just anything really.
Mm.
All right.
Yeah. Well, that's like what I was saying about 7-Eleven. They just like, you know, anytime I ever need anything, you're never more than a block away from 7-Eleven in Bangkok.
Exactly.
But I also really just miss being surrounded by Thai speakers and like going to the store and getting to practice my Thai. There was another lady that worked below my apartment, and she sold fruit, and I would just go in there and buy bananas from her every day and practice my Thai. Just, Thai people are very friendly, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, and I mean that's I'm biased of course, but I always think like, oh yeah, Thai people are very, easygoing, and if you're learning Thai, practice with them.
Yeah.
They're very forgiving. Like you can make mistakes, and they'll be like, "Oh no, that's okay." They'll try to try their best to understand you or help you, or help you fix your sentence. And um,
And if I I have some experience learning other languages where the people are not as accommodating. Like if, for example, I was trying to learn Canadian French, and I went to Montreal, where the instant they hear a slight accent in your French, they instantly just switch to English because they don't want to bother with someone who speaks imperfect French. But like my experience with Thai people is that they're always willing to bend over backwards to help you learn Thai, and they'll tell you if like let me think. I was trying. Like, one time I went in to go talk with the fruit lady below my apartment, and I was like, my wife sent me to go get a mango, and I think the word I used was miya, and there was someone in there who's like, yeah, well you can say that, but it's better to say palaya instead of
yeah,
me, like depending on formality
right.
or so, but they were just always willing to help me practice, and uh, most importantly, just speak with me, speak Thai to me, and without switching to English.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's very encouraging too. So if anyone's, you know, if anyone wants to practice with Thai friends or other Thai speakers, I think it's just good to know that at least most of the Thais that you've met or encountered have been very nice and helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing to fear.
All right. Well, I don't know if I see any more questions. I don't know how to spell it, but เกรงใจ mentality. เกรงใจ. Did you get used to that word, เกรงใจ, in Thailand?
I don't think I know what that means. Jai. I can tell it. I mean, I know what Jai means.
Right. Yeah, เกรงใจ. I think a lot of so it's very common. Thais like to say เกรงใจ. It's like being overly considerate of the other
Mm,
person. Like, oh, I don't want to burden you. Oh, เกรงใจ.
yeah, right.
Um, if I was like, oh yeah, you want me to do that for you, the other person could say, oh, เกรงใจ, like no need to. I don't want to burden you. Um,
Yeah, right.
yeah, so
That makes sense.
that is part of the Thai mentality.
Yeah, that word Jai, that little, I don't know if you call it a suffix or a word, but Jai is very useful
Hmm.
for at least kind of out what someone is trying to say.
It's in a lot of the
You know,
emotion words, right? Like พอใจ,
exactly.
satisfying,
Yeah,
ใจ,
Jai. Yeah.
uh, or ไม่พอใจ, or เสียใจ, or that's sad,
Right.
and that translates to losing heart.
Mm.
I honestly I grew up using it, so I didn't even think about it. But once I started teaching time, like, oh yeah, there are a lot of ใจ words with the heart.
Yeah.
Well, all right, I think it's 11. You're in the same time zone. I forgot that. So it's 11:20. So I want to be mindful of your time. We've had a great conversation. So thank you so much, Crew Aaron. Um,
Yeah.
I'd love to do this again. I think the audience,
Absolutely.
I from what I've seen, it's just very positive. I think a lot of people enjoyed it. So appreciate you sharing your insights on learning Thai and just experiencing Thailand. I think this has been great.
Absolutely. Thank you. I had fun.
Yeah. And we'll make sure to do this again.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Thank you guys. Thank you all for joining. See
Bye. สวัสดี
สวัสดีค่ะสวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีครับ Okay, bye.